There are moments in history when the veil between worlds grows thin. Moments when those who see beyond time itself speak words that echo through the ages. And there are dates that burn themselves into the fabric of reality. Dates that cannot be ignored. Dates that demand our attention. December 7th, the date that once marked Pearl Harbor. A date that changed America forever. But what if I told you that this date is about to write another chapter in the story of North America? What if the visions of one of the most accurate seers of our time point to this exact moment as a turning point that will shake the very foundations of the United States? Her name is Mhoni Vidente, and what she has seen for December 7th is something that has left even the most skeptical minds questioning everything they thought they knew about the future. Listen carefully, because what you are about to hear is not just another prediction. This is a warning that has been whispered in the shadows, a revelation that connects ancient prophecies with modern events, a vision so specific and so disturbing that once you hear it, you will never look at the calendar the same way again. December 7th is coming, and according to Mhoni Vidente, America is not ready for what is about to unfold. Let me take you back to where this story truly begins. Mhoni Vidente is not just any psychic. She is a woman who has predicted events with an accuracy that defies explanation. She saw the pandemic before it arrived. She warned of political upheavals that seemed impossible until they happened. She spoke of natural disasters weeks before they devastated entire regions. Her track record is not built on vague statements that could mean anything. No, her visions are specific. They include dates. They include names. They include details that only become clear when the events actually unfold. And now, she has turned her gaze toward the United States, toward December, toward the 7th day of the month. And what she sees there is a convergence of forces that will change everything. But before we dive into the heart of this prophecy, you need to understand something crucial. Mhoni does not speak in riddles for entertainment. When she issues a warning, it is because she has seen something in the realm beyond our physical reality. Something that is already in motion. Something that cannot be stopped, only prepared for. So what exactly has she seen for December 7th? The vision comes in waves, in fragments that piece together like a puzzle made of lightning and shadow. She speaks of a great awakening, but not the kind that brings peace. No, this is an awakening that comes through crises, through an event so shocking that it forces millions to question everything they believed about their safety, their government, their future. Mhoni describes seeing the east coast of the United States engulfed in chaos. Not just one city, but multiple major centers, simultaneously affected by something unexpected. She sees communication systems failing. She sees people running through streets not knowing where to go or who to trust. She sees the sky itself appearing strange, as if reality has been torn at the seams. Is this a natural disaster? Is this a technological catastrophe? Or is this something far more complex? Something that involves forces we have been told do not exist. The details become more specific. She mentions December 7th falling on a Sunday, a day when most people are relaxed, unprepared, their guards down. A day when emergency services are operating at reduced capacity. A day when the element of surprise is maximized. He sees financial systems experiencing unprecedented disruption. Not a simple market crash, but something that affects the very infrastructure of how money moves through the modern world. 8. Going dark. Digital transactions freezing. People suddenly unable to access their own funds. The panic that follows is palpable in her vision. The fear is contagious. But here is where the prophecy takes an even darker turn. Mhoni speaks of December 7th as the first domino, the triggering event. What happens on this day, she warns, will set in motion a chain reaction that extends through the rest of December and into the new year. It is not a single moment of crisis. It is the beginning of a transformation that will reshape North America. She sees 3 major cities experiencing this event simultaneously. The synchronicity is too perfect to be coincidence. This coordination suggests something planned, something orchestrated, but by whom and for what purpose? In her visions, she sees symbols, strange markings appearing in digital spaces, communications that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, messages that spread faster than any virus, faster than any information has ever spread before. These messages carry with them a frequency, an energy that affects people on a psychological level. Fear becomes amplified, confusion becomes chaos, and in that chaos, something else emerges. Control. This is where Mhoni's prophecy intersects with something that many have whispered about, but few dare to speak openly. She sees December 7th as the moment when a new system begins to reveal itself. A system that has been prepared in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to emerge into the light. Think about it. How many times have we been told that massive changes are coming to how society functions? How many times have we heard about digital currencies, about surveillance systems, about technologies that can track and monitor every aspect of our lives? These things are not conspiracy theories anymore. They are documented realities being implemented slowly, gradually, so that by the time people notice, it is already too late to resist. But Mhoni sees December 7th as the acceleration point, the moment when the gradual becomes sudden, when the optional becomes mandatory, when choice becomes illusion. She describes seeing people lined up outside buildings, waiting for something. In her vision, they are waiting for access. Access to systems they need to survive, access to their own money, access to services they took for granted just days before. And in order to gain that access, they must submit to something. They must accept something that changes their relationship with freedom itself. What could cause such a scenario? What event could create the conditions where people willingly give up autonomy in exchange for security? The answer lies in the nature of the event itself. Mhoni speaks of technology failing, but not in a random way. She sees it as a calculated failure, a controlled demolition of the old system to make way for the new. And the timing, December 7th, carries its own symbolic weight. Remember Pearl Harbor? Remember how that single event transformed American consciousness overnight? Remember how it united a nation behind a war effort? How it changed laws? How it expanded government powers that were unthinkable before that day? History has a pattern. Catalyzing events create opportunities for rapid transformation that would otherwise take decades. Mhoni sees December 7th as America's next Pearl Harbor moment. But this time, the attack is not coming from a foreign navy. It is not planes and bombs. It is something more subtle, more insidious, more difficult to identify and therefore more difficult to defend against. She mentions seeing the number 7 repeatedly in her visions. Not just the date, but the number itself appearing as a symbol, a code, a marker. 7 cities, 7 systems, 7 days. The number 7 carries powerful significance in prophecy, in mysticism, in the architecture of transformation. It represents completion of one cycle and the beginning of another. It represents divine intervention in human affairs. It represents the moment when heaven and earth intersect, and according to Mhoni, that intersection is happening on December 7th. But let us examine the specifics even more closely, because understanding the details can help us prepare, can help us recognize the signs, can help us navigate what is coming. She speaks of the power grid experiencing anomalies, not a complete blackout, but fluctuations that create widespread confusion. Lights flickering in patterns that seem almost intentional, electronics behaving strangely, devices turning on and off without explanation. These anomalies, she says, are not technical malfunctions. They are signatures. They are messages being sent to those who know how to read them. Who is sending these messages? Mhoni hesitates to name specific entities, but she suggests that what we are witnessing is a battle being fought on multiple levels of reality simultaneously. There are human actors, yes, governments, corporations, hidden organizations that operate beyond public view. But there are also forces that transcend the purely material, forces that have always influenced human history from behind the veil. Some call them angels and demons, some call them extraterrestrial intelligences, some call them interdimensional beings. Their names change across cultures and belief systems, but the reality remains consistent throughout history. There are powers beyond human comprehension that take interest in human affairs at pivotal moments. And December 7th, according to Mhoni, is one of those moments. She sees the sky itself changing, not in a way that everyone will immediately recognize, but subtly. Colors appearing that should not be there, clouds forming patterns that defy natural explanation. Those who are sensitive, who pay attention, who have not been dulled by the constant noise of modern life, they will see these signs. They will know that something is shifting. In the days leading up to December 7th, Mhoni warns, there will be increasing reports of unusual phenomena. Animals behaving strangely, birds falling from the sky, fish washing up on shores in unprecedented numbers. These are not isolated incidents. They are responses to energetic shifts that most humans cannot consciously perceive but that affect all living things. The Earth itself is preparing for something, and whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, we are part of that preparation. Now, let me address something that many of you are probably thinking right now. How can one person know these things? How can Mhoni vidente see events before they happen with such specificity? Is she tapping into some universal consciousness? Is she receiving information from entities beyond our dimension? Or is there a more mundane explanation that we are missing? The truth is that consciousness itself is not limited by time in the way that our physical bodies are. There are states of awareness where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, where information flows freely across what we perceive as linear time. Mystics, prophets, and seers throughout history have accessed these states through various means: meditation, trance, dreams, direct revelation. Mhoni has refined her ability to enter these states and bring back information. But she is not the only one. There are others around the world who are seeing similar things. The prophecies are converging. Different voices from different cultures speaking about the same time frame, the same themes, the same warnings. December 7th appears in multiple prophetic traditions under different names and descriptions, but the essence remains the same: a day of revelation, a day of transformation, a day when the hidden becomes visible and the comfortable becomes uncomfortable. But here is what makes Mhoni's prophecy particularly compelling. She is not speaking in abstract spiritual terms. She is providing actionable information. She is telling people to prepare in specific ways. She advises having cash on hand, not in banks, but physically accessible. She recommends storing food and water for at least 2 weeks. She suggests having alternative communication methods ready, because standard systems may be unreliable. She emphasizes the importance of community, of knowing your neighbors, of building networks of mutual support that do not depend on centralized infrastructure. These are practical preparations for what she sees coming, but they also serve another purpose. They help people maintain autonomy when systems designed to create dependence begin to activate. Think about how much of modern life depends on technology. Your money exists primarily as numbers in a database. Your identity is verified through digital systems. Your ability to buy food, fuel, medicine, all depends on networks that could be disrupted or controlled. If those systems fail or become weaponized, what happens to people who have no backup plans? Mhoni sees December 7th as the moment when the fragility of our interconnected systems becomes undeniable. And in that moment of vulnerability, changes will be implemented that would have been impossible to introduce under normal circumstances. She speaks of a new identification system being rolled out, not immediately on December 7th, but in the aftermath, as part of the solution to the chaos. This system, she warns, will be presented as necessary for security, for efficiency, for rebuilding what was lost. But once implemented, it'll change the nature of freedom itself. You will hear phrases like, "for your safety," and "to prevent future incidents," and "to restore normalcy." These phrases will be repeated constantly by media, by officials, by influencers who have been prepared to deliver these messages. Their repetition will create acceptance. The fear generated by the December 7th events will override critical thinking, and most people will comply without realizing what they are accepting. But some will resist. Some will see through the manipulation. Some will remember that freedom once lost is almost impossible to regain. And those people, Mhoni says, will face difficult choices in the months that follow. The question you need to ask yourself right now, today, before December 7th arrives, is which group will you belong to? Will you be among those who trade liberty for the illusion of security? Or will you be among those who maintain their sovereignty even when it becomes inconvenient, even when it becomes costly, even when it means standing apart from the crowd? This is not a question about politics. This is not about left or right, Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative. Those divisions are theater designed to keep people focused on surface conflicts while deeper changes happen unnoticed. This is about something more fundamental. This is about the direction of human civilization itself. Mhoni sees December 7th as a fork in the road. One path leads toward greater centralization, greater control, greater dependence on systems. managed by entities that do not have individual freedom as their priority. The other path leads toward decentralization, toward resilience, toward communities that can function independently of fragile global networks. The event on December 7th, whatever its precise nature, will force people to choose which path they will walk, and that choice will have consequences that extend far beyond the immediate crisis. She also warns of false prophets emerging in the aftermath, people who will claim to have solutions, who will promise safety and prosperity, who will gather followings based on charisma rather than truth. These figures will rise quickly in the chaos, filling the vacuum created by collapsed institutions and confused populations. How will you recognize them? By their fruits, as the ancient wisdom teaches. Do they encourage critical thinking or demand blind obedience? Do they promote autonomy or dependence? Do they lead with transparency or secrecy? These are the questions that will separate genuine leaders from manipulators. December 7th will reveal much about human nature. It will show who people truly are when comfort and routine are stripped away. It will demonstrate the depth of programming that has occurred over decades of carefully managed information. It will separate those who can adapt and think clearly under pressure from those who panic and follow whoever shouts the loudest. And it will show who has been preparing, not just materially, but mentally and spiritually, for exactly this kind of Mhoni emphasizes that preparation is not about fear. It is about empowerment. It is about taking responsibility for your own well-being rather than assuming that external systems will always be there to take care of you, because the lesson of December 7th, she says, is that those systems are more fragile than most people realize. The financial system can freeze overnight, the power grid can fail, communication networks can go dark, supply chains can break. And when these things happen simultaneously, even briefly, the veneer of civilization becomes very thin very quickly. But those who have prepared, who have built resilience into their lives, who have skills and resources and community connections, they will navigate the crisis far better than those who have lived entirely dependent on systems that do not understand and cannot control. This is why my prophecy is not just a warning about a single day. It is a call to examine how we live, what we depend on, what we would do if the conveniences we take for granted suddenly vanished. December 7th is coming. That much is certain. It appears on calendars. It approaches with mathematical inevitability. But what happens on that day and how it affects you personally depends on choices you make right now. Will you dismiss this as just another prediction that'll never come true? Will you wait until the event occurs and then react in panic? Or will you take reasonable precautions, prepare as best you can, and position yourself to maintain agency regardless of what unfolds? Mhoni sees three possible timelines branching from December 7th. In one timeline, the event triggers mass chaos that leads to rapid implementation of authoritarian control systems that persist for years. In another timeline, the event occurs, but enough people are prepared that communities maintain stability and resist centralized control. In the third timeline, awareness of the prophecy itself creates enough consciousness shift that the event is either minimized or manifests in a less destructive form. Which timeline becomes reality depends on collective consciousness. Is the power that prophecy holds. It is not just prediction, it is a form of creation. By speaking the future, seers give humanity the opportunity to consciously choose which potential reality to actualize. So by sharing this prophecy, by spreading awareness of December 7th, we participate in shaping what actually occurs. This is why Mhoni speaks publicly, despite the ridicule she sometimes faces. She knows that prophecy is not about impressing people with accurate predictions. It is about giving people information they can use to navigate uncertain times. The countdown has begun. As I speak these words, December 7th draws closer. Each day that passes is one less day to prepare, one less opportunity to make the choices that will determine how you experience what is coming. Are there signs already visible that support Mhoni's vision? Look around you. Pay attention. Strange. Where the patterns that meteorologists struggle to explain. Economic indicators that do not make sense according to traditional models. Political rhetoric that seems designed to increase division rather than solve problems. Technology failures that happen with suspicious timing. These are all pieces of a larger pattern that becomes clear only when you step back and look at the whole picture. December 7th will not come out of nowhere. It will be the culmination of trends already in motion, the convergence of multiple streams of probability that have been building toward this moment in your life and in the world around you. December 7th, the prophecy, the warning, the opportunity. It all converges on that single date. Be ready, be aware, be prepared to maintain your freedom and your consciousness no matter what unfolds. This is the challenge. This is the test. This is the initiation that December 7th represents, and you will pass through it one way or another. The only question is how. Conscious or unconscious, prepared or unprepared, strong or weak. The choice is yours to make. Make it now. Make it wisely. Because time is shorter than you think, and December 7th is closer than it appears. The prophecy is complete. The message is delivered. Now, action must follow awareness. Now preparation must follow knowledge. Now consciousness must rise to meet the challenge that approaches. This is your responsibility. This is your opportunity. This is your moment to decide who you will be when the comfortable world you know begins to transform into something new. Choose strength. Choose awareness. Choose preparation. And when December 7th arrives, you will be ready to face it with courage rather than fear, with understanding rather than confusion, with sovereignty rather than submission. The countdown continues. Each day brings us closer. Use this time wisely. The future belongs to those who prepare for it, and December 7th is the beginning of that future. Whether we are ready or not, asterisk.